Yeah, I've sent.
Himani, did you receive?
Where have you sent it, sir? If I may ask, sir.
On the same email ID where the invitation came in. Himani Chaudhary.
Okay, mail ID. Okay, sir. So we'll just access.
Yeah. So I'll start. So basically, once you get the presentation, you can show. So so all the guests. So basically, I come from healthcare sector, and I have spent around 14 years into healthcare. So when I talk about the DEI into healthcare per se, basically uh, there are various industries, various subsectors to healthcare. I come from medical technology background, and there are hospitals, there are allied services like IVF. There are services which also come into the sphere of providing you the diagnostic services. So i I mean, I will definitely like to touch upon firstly, what is diversity. Diversity in healthcare basically means this, that there should be a bunch of people in who are taking care of a particular phenomena, maybe a particular case, or maybe a particular theory. They can provide you valuable inputs. Giving you a real life example, for example, I often see people who come from southern part of India. They are more towards, they are more composed. They take more time in giving their answers. They provide you a different perspective of the things, whereas people from northern part of India are very accurate and very quick. So probably these are two different ways. And when the two doctors who are discussing a case into a hospital, they definitely want to take both the opinions, because quickness is sometimes required into a space, and also sometimes some maturity is also required. So while we create teams into healthcare scenario, there is a huge thought which goes into that. From where do we want to take our resources, where we want to create a diversity. I have seen that there is a specific demand of people from north towards the southern part of India, and people from southern part of India towards the northern part of India. I mean, if I divide it into two zones.
Sorry to interrupt you, sir. May I share the slides now?
Yeah, yeah, please.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So I was going on the same. The presence and difference in the people that may include the race, gender, religion, sexual orientation, ethnicity, nationality, socioeconomic status, language, disabilities, age, or political perspective. This includes diversity. So when I was saying you that when we create a team, when we do something, we need people from different races, different gender, different sexual orientations, ethnicity, so that the team comes to the best. They do their best. They have varied ideas. They come into inclusions. And at the same time, when we are moving towards a bigger goal, that is an organizational goal, or maybe a hospital who wants their people to be getting cured well, cured on time, the conversion ratios or the overall healthcare efficacy ratio should be higher. They require a very good team. So diversity is very important. Secondly is equity, promoting justice, impartiality, fairness within the procedures, process, and distribution of resources by institutions or systems. Now, when I talk about equity, there could be, and you when once I go on my next slide, you will understand what exactly equity means. Equity can be given to everybody, but is the person actually getting equality? That is the question, right? So when we are promoting justice, when we are doing impartiality, for example, I can share one example with you here. There is a top level position which is open in the organization, right? And the organization holds 10,000 people, but still the the CEO of the organization may look a person from outside, because he is not providing, the equality to these his own resources. So one, that he believes that, if he takes a very learned person from outside the outside world, probably he can come and, create a lot of insights in the organization. The second point on the same thing would be that the person can go from the within the organization and create an impact on 10,000 of the people in the company. That is equality, right? And then inclusion, an outcome to ensure those who are diverse and welcomed are feel welcome. Inclusion outcomes are met when your organization and your programs are truly inviting to all. So this is basically DEI as per the literal definitions. Can you move to the next slide, please? So what is it in healthcare exactly? Because this is what I have been asked to cover. So diversity is the celebration of myriad of backgrounds, be it race, gender, religion, nationality. It is about recognizing the rich tapestry of human ensuring reflecting in healthcare institutions. As I told you, like, we tend to welcome a lot of females today into our setups, because they bring a lot of calmness into the organization. Today, I proudly say that I'm heading a team of 20 people. Out of 20, I think 12 are females. So and there is a difference. There is a lot of calmness, there is a lot of softness which goes into the system. At the same time, definitely, I am able to penetrate better inside the market with my team. And no injustice to men, of course, but of course, if I am given a chance, I can further increase to two more females in my team. So this is how, things work. At the same time, whenever, we are talking about a small example, you might have seen everywhere in India today, at all the tolls, at all national highway tolls, women's are being preferred to take those counters. Why? Because, we want them to grow. We want a diversity, not only in terms of, gender, but everybody, right? If we talk about Indian cricket team right now, I think there are all four religions who are playing at one point of time and some point of time, and each one of us is contributing towards the same. So into healthcare also, as I told you, there is a lot of demand of, people from south towards north and north towards south. And when I travel to hospitals, they actually say, please refer me some CVs. Why? Because they want people with different mindset. They want, because in an ICU, when, casualty happens, or a code is being announced, they want people who have, a good brain. They want people who do not get disturbed with the XYZ of the disturbances which are happening in NICUs. So equity in healthcare goes beyond equality. It is about tailoring, making care to meet the individual needs. As I told you in my previous example on the top position which is available. Yes, if you are tailoring to care the need of individual, definitely equity will be there in the organization. And at the same time, the geopolitical environment, I mean, if I talk about various organizations now, so people look on these kind of organizations when they want to enter, when they make a choice that I want to do this and I want to do that after 10 years of their service. They will definitely want an organization which is more of, an equality based organization. Inclusion is committed to creating an environment where every voice is valued, be it patients sharing their symptoms or a nurse suggesting a new procedure, right? So, for example, there is a better way of doing a thing. There is a better way of handling a patient. There could be a better way of, handling a code blue or a code red or any other, emergency in the hospital. So today, all, ideas are being welcomed. In fact, teams create a environment where each one, the silliest of the ideas, are also welcome to change the healthcare space. Next slide, please. So diversity, I mean, that's what I've been talking about. Next slide, please. So if you see this picture, I was talking about the same. I mean, you have given equality to everyone, right? But is that equity, right? The third person in the photograph is not able to see what he was being desired of seeing, right? So when we are providing equity, we need to see that, are we achieving our goals? This is what we intended to, or what the organization wanted, have we been able to deliver that? So that's what is more important. Being, bringing a, a different gendered person or a different religion person in the team just to match the numbers won't help. Are we able to actually synchronize the goal, that is the most important thing. So I think this photograph itself depicts what I wanted to say. Next slide, please. So now this is equality, equity, liberation, and inclusion, right? So now if you see these four photographs, I mean, two have already explained, but if you see, you are a part of me. I want you to be me, right? I want you to grow. I don't want to take your credits. All this is inclusion. Okay. So when a person or an organization or a political party or maybe a group of people who are performing together, right? They should always think that they are our part. When I deal as a healthcare professional, as a head of maternal infant care in my own organization, and whenever a doctor or a patient or a customer or maybe a stakeholder claims that I have been hurt, I firstly take it on me. I don't say this is service. I don't say this is sales. I don't say this is a sub part of my organization. So inclusion. So we are a team. That is what inclusion is all about, and then the team grows from there. Next slide, please. So now the core of the thing, the last, I think this is my last slide as well. DI in healthcare organization, diversity, equity, and inclusion apply everywhere in healthcare organization, whether it is formally acknowledged or not. Organizations that dedicate intentional offers of improving DI become will come out of head in terms of organizational excellence. Now, for example, you see GE Healthcare, right, operating in 260 countries, having different sort of an atmosphere. We have 4 to 5 research centers. Out of in every research center, there are around 4,000 scientists who are working. So how does this happen? These 4,000 scientists will not be from India. It will be from across the world. Just went to my Bangalore research center and could meet various people from various countries. I just went for a training in France recently. Over there were 25 varied background people who were there in the training. I came to know so much about my organization and so much of the diversity, and I felt included. So that's what I want to tell, that bigger organizations like bigger group of hospitals, maybe Astra hospitals, maybe Manipals, and maybe all the bigger medtech companies like Philips, like GE, like Siemens, like maybe Johnson and Johnson, bigger chains like Nephroplus, who are the leaders into dialysis, Indra IVF, who are the leaders into. So when I compare all these organizations, they are all organizations who are moving towards organizational excellence. Why? Because they are meeting the DI requirements better than other small companies, because they only concentrate on few group of people with few important tasks. They have already taken a diversification now, that we want to treat different doctors equally. We want to take different breed of doctors, and we want to take different site of doctors. Staff recruiting, retention, and well-being. This is the most important thing which is there. A person, when he devotes 5 to 10 years of his important life to an organization, right, he would definitely want some work-life balance into his life, some respect, some retention, and some kind of acknowledgement, other than the basic perks which are being given to the to that particular person on that role. So well-being, for example, giving freebies in terms of the treatment to the hospital employees and their families, other than the insurance. Okay, that is like one of the most important thing. Then similarly, I'm traveling outside Europe, outside to Europe in 2 days of time, and that is a gesture which my organization has showed towards me, towards my performance in 2023. It will not, it is just a well-being or a retention or a, I will say, a perk which they want to show me that, Mandeep, you did very well for us compared to any other person in the organization. And these are those 25 set of people who we are sending to enjoy or to have a different learning for next 7 days in your life. So that's how organizations work, and that's why we are being treated as the number one player into healthcare. So that's what I'm trying to tell you, that the organizations which will focus more on HR, more on employee retention, because employees are built in years. They don't get built in 6 months. They don't get built in 1 year. They get built in almost 3 to 4 years of time. And when the time comes that he has to deliver for the organization, that time he should be kept well and he should not leave the organization. So good organizations are built on good people. And then lastly, I've taken this point as patient outcomes, because end of the day, the customer outcome is the most important thing. Whether we get our father or a mother admitted in a hospital, a doctor is buying equipment from me, or maybe we are getting an IVF done, or we are, purchasing any surgicals from any big organization like BD. End of the day, outcome will matter. A ultrasound machine from X company may be better than an ultrasound machine from the Y company. But at the same time, the service part, who's delivering the best, right? At 2 o'clock, both machines went down, but one company came in and other company didn't, right? So similarly, on patient outcomes, how, there are various ways of doing, a surgery. It could be a minimal invasive, it could be a, open surgery, but what doctor did, was doctor competent enough to make you comfortable, was doctor enough to give you the patient outcome which you wanted. So all these things, end of the day, will create a DI in the healthcare industry. And I think all these points will make you understand on how healthcare industry works in terms of its inclusions and in terms of its approaches towards the overall goals.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mandeep sir. I think it was a very valuable and thought-provoking discussion, and thank you for so wonderfully handling and moderating the session. So now we would like to proceed with the question answer session, and may I request our audience, the questions that they have for their panelists, they can just put it in the chat box with the name of the panelist that they want to address it to, and we'll surely try to take up as many questions as we can. So please put up your questions in the chat box, and we'll try to take them up. Aneet ma'am, you can unmute yourself and you can ask your question. Aneet.
Am I audible to everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Good afternoon, everyone. My question is for Pradeep, sir. Sir, what strategies can be employed to foster an inclusive workplace in politically unstable environment?
Thank you for your question. I wish it had an easy answer. I'm afraid it doesn't. I think what as leaders we need to do is isolate what we consider as bad influences or political influences. We need to take care that our organization remains isolated to a large extent, and we have to go on sensitizing and talking to people. We have to encourage open communication, as Dr. Abhasuri was saying. I mean, people should bring their concern to the right forum in the right way, and they should be addressed. I think these are some of the things that they come to my mind. I think the practices to promote equity, inclusivity, and diversity in a politically unstable environment are not very different from what you would do in a stable environment. You have to go on what has been prescribed, what you have decided, but maybe practice it more rigorously.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I believe in the last session there was a very relevant question put by Dr. Arvind Kumar Saraswati. Would you like to speak up and take up your question, sir? Or in that case, sir, I'll speak up that question and it can be addressed by any one of you. He had asked that what can be done to retain Gen Z in the early stages of their career. Mandeep, sir, if you could answer that.
Yeah, can you repeat the question, please?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Dr. Arvind Saraswati wanted to know that what can be done to retain Gen Z in the early stage of their careers in organizations.
What can be done
to retain today's students, today's generation in the early stage of their career, because the attrition rates are high. So what can be done? What can be done by the organizations to have a better retention?
Yeah, I got it. Now I got it. So basically, see, there are various ways today by which organizations are recruiting the candidates from various other places. Like, in my organization, there is a CLP program which we run, and that is called as a loyalty program which is run with few colleges. And what we have decided as the leaders in GE Healthcare, that firstly we will do it from top 5 to 6 colleges in the country, and once we take them, we will make them work in all the departments of the organization. Like they will work for 6 months in one, the next 6 months would be second, and they would be on a 2-year internship to the paid internship to the organization, and finally settle down in the role which they want. So basically, all the organizations today, the good organizations today, want people who stay with them for a longer period of time, because 1.5 year, as I already told, that it is an investment period which an organization spends on an employee to make him learn. I mean, GE is itself, a constitution in itself, and to learn GE will take 1 year, minimum 1 year, because the policies, and you might be aware that we are one of the most compliant organizations of the world. There is no single way by which we differentiate any. I mean, if it is risky for us, it is risky for my distributor as well. Similarly, not talking about GE today, the students or the candidates should also look up to better brands to get job. And at the same time, once they get into better brands, the retention power will be much more higher. They should align themselves to the processes rather than results, because once they enter into the results, they will not be doing justice to their roles. Because today the organizations are looking for the people who can just create the difference by maybe shortening a process by, say, 2 minutes. If a process take 10 minutes, we don't want a person who will take who will do a wonder and do it in 1 minute. We just want a person who is more efficient on that, create a 9.5 minute delivery or a 8 minute delivery, but with no faults, right? So the retention of those people is better who are process aligned in a bigger organization, and retention of those people who are entrepreneurial in nature are better in the startups, where they take some critical decisions and move the organization from one point to the other, where the organization derives a bigger revenue. So I have played I played both the roles in my life. So that both the organizations wanted me to stay, but at some point of time, again, I'm saying you run for some bigger brand which gives you satisfaction that I have worked for it. So it is a transition in a career of any person.
Thank you, sir, for that answer. Miss Renu Jakhar, you can ask a question, ma'am.
I'm not okay.
Yes, ma'am, you're audible.
I'm audible. Audible. Yeah. Thank you so much. My question to you, sir, that how can technology be used to support HEI initiative across different geopolitical regions? So how this impact would be on this latest technology nowadays?
She wants to know if, how can technology be used to support DEI initiatives across different geopolitical regions? Any one of the panelists can answer, sir.
Maybe Pradeep sir, you can answer.
Yes. So actually, we are all pretty familiar with the tools which enhance the accessibility. We can reach in a short time where we couldn't earlier. So the communication has become faster, more inclusive. We can reach many people. I mean, it's one of the banes of technology also, which is unwarranted CC. A lot of unwarranted information gets floated around a lot. But at the same time, to look at the positive side, so we have access to these tools where we can communicate our message to relevant people. Having said that, we have to not confuse the tools, the ends with the means. The means, the tools are only the means which will facilitate the communication and the initiative. They by themselves will not bring any results. So while we know the Zooms and the Teams and various project management softwares, I think we shouldn't forget the human element of it. One of the issues faced during the COVID lockdown was, and working from office all the time, was the lack of connect, the personal connect. So we have to be judicious in our use of tools. I think an optimum blend is the right way to go about it. And we still have to focus on doing things rather than the tools themselves.
Thank you so much, Pradeep, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Himani Chaudhary, you can address your question to the panelists you want to address it.
Thank you, ma'am. My question is, what role do local culture norms play in shaping DEI policies in multinational organizations?
You want to ask this to somebody in particular?
Local culture norms. How will local culture norms help in DEI
No, which, oh,
policies?
ma'am, you want to address it to which speaker?
This is for, I think, Pradeep, sir.
Right. So we see the influence of local culture. One of the aspect, I think it was covered in my presentation. We have a rich heritage of talking about diversity and accommodating it. But there is other extreme or the other side of it, which we see in US, which is a far more open society. I mean, we all are aware of the protests that were going on in Google, for example, or the movement for the rights of LGBT people. I think it's quite virulent and, if I may use that term, very, very aggressive kind of movement to accommodate or facilitate DEI. I don't think we need to go to that extent. Again, we have to use our sensibilities. We have to take, as Major General Chaturvedi was also saying, we have to borrow from our heritage, but at the same time, we have to bring in contemporary thinking, contemporary sensibilities. And we know that things are evolving. What used to be acceptable as a joke maybe has become politically incorrect today. So the sensibilities, the tolerance levels, they are evolving, and we have to be again careful in our message. But yes, we must draw from our heritage, from our culture, from our local values, and add to what we're trying to achieve.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Aparna, ma'am, would you like
To add to this, what sir said, being working in an MNC, today the organizations want to pay on the local norms because if you see today, anything which is being done by any organization directly correlates to the policies which are being run by the national government in that in that region. For example, today, if I give you one very common example of my own organization here, government is, focusing a lot on Make in India. And similarly, if you read newspapers, and follow GE, they have, announced to invest 1 billion of investment in India in last like 2 to 3 months from now. They have announced. So similarly, you can see that this will include a lot of inclusion. This will include a lot of diversity because once GE Healthcare invests 1 billion into Indian economy, they will come up with a lot of facilities and a lot of, Indian people would be getting, impetus. Also, when they wanted to enter India, so they could have entered India like any other organization. Today Philips is Philips Healthcare. Maybe Johnson and Johnson is Johnson and Johnson, but we are Wipro GE Healthcare, right? So we are Wipro GE Healthcare because we wanted to enter with an Indian partner, and we wanted to respect the inclusion of Wipro. And today Azim Premji sits on the board of GE Healthcare for India, and all our CSRs, all our work is done by the Azim Premji Foundation. So when any MNC will enter, they will respect your values, they will respect your cultures, they will celebrate all the festivals with you, and they will also value, and also they will, as Sir said that you will also come to know what is there in far off US, because they are, at the end of the day, it is a US MNC, right? So the kind of fastness they work and the kind of results they want, you will also come to know. So that's how diversity comes in. It comes with inclusion and equality.
Thank you, sir, for taking it beautifully. Aparna, ma'am? If you could put
Yeah,
up your question.
very good afternoon to everyone here. This question actually goes to all the panelists with their respective sector. And since morning, I see it from the viewpoint of a leader. Since morning, we are talking about DEI and the organization. You know, when we talk about POSH, when we talk about grievance redressal cell in terms of IIC, and many more like all these kinds of policies which have been crafted for DEI protection of the HR, especially the workforce. What do you think? I take a terminology here, a jargon here, woke culture that I included in my welcome address too. What do you think? How is the scenario in your sector in terms of making misuse of all these DEI policies from the workforce? How is the condition? What is the status, and how you're tackling and how you're coping up with the situation and managing the situation, uh, taking care of the well-being of the employees, like not giving them the feeling of being exploited into the situation. So, how do you create this balance? Thank you.
Mandeep ji, you'd like to start or?
Yeah, I can start because I think it's directly related to an organization and in the sector. So in this regard, actually, what happens is this, that yes, I mean, I still remember the previous webinar which I was there in for the same institute. So if I recall it proper, there is an MII policy which Government of India has made, right? Many organizations are taking advantage of it by doing the right things. They are putting their factories, investments in India and creating the things for India. But there are many distributors today in India, who uh, buy it from abroad, but they do some local manufacturing, like they will create some content inside, or they will repaint the trolleys of the equipment, and then they say that this is an MII equipment, right? Make in India equipment, because government has also classified 25%, 50%, and 75% local content to be there in the product. Now, how do you justify that 25% is just painting of the trolley and taking a higher cost out of it, or escalating the cost and showing that this is 25% of the value of the ventilator? Similarly, these policies, the DEI policies, so it was going both ways. I mean, I wanted to say that it was advantageous to few people. They did a lot of good work. It was also disadvantage, and people also took advantage of that. Similarly, these policies, when they are there, one that we need to see that whether the people are actually getting benefited. Are today, if I say that I had maternal infant care per se requires a lot of fetal monitoring, right? And fetal monitoring is a subject where male person cannot be there. So end of the day, even if he is an application guy, he will definitely not be comfortable, or the mother will also be not be comfortable while the fetal monitoring is being done at the closing stages of the pregnancy, and things are moving forward. So inclusion of a female resource is very important. Then technically sound resource is also very important. But then what I've also seen, there is another part of it, that today all the organization run a lot of diversified, and like the points which Aparna ma'am raised, like POSH and various others. So there are employees in the organizations who actually take advantage of this, because one, they will still not work on the policies and the procedures of the organization the way they have been asked to. And then secondly, they also know this, that if they write a complaint, it would be a disaster for the manager or to the person whom they are reporting to. So there has to be a correct blend of things. Whenever we get such incidences in the organizations, we directly go inside the details, and we go to the minutest of details, how things have happened, and was there a genuine fault of the person against whom the complaint has come, whether he is a male or a female. But then our job is not to immediately take a decision. We try to give a first level instance and try to console both the parties to it, and try to come to a mutual consent. However, if there is a genuineness in the problem and we support diversity, organizations are there to take decisions, and a very, very strict decisions to even, take off the employees out of the role, even if they are at the senior most level in the organization. There is a zero tolerance policy in that regard. So there is a grievance redressal cell over there. There are, I can also tell you that even it happens like this, that there are hearings in the organization. There is a HR, there is a legal manager who will sit and discuss all these things with them. But if the person is found guilty, he has to, then it is not, I mean, he's not there in the organization for the future course of action.
Thank you. Pradeep sir, if you can address
Add
to
to
this
it.
query.
Yeah. So I think your question was about woke culture, and we see more and more of it. Fortunately, our industry, unfortunately, textile is one of the oldest industries, and it has a lot of, traditions. And in any country, industrialization starts with textiles. So we still have terminologies and practices which could be as old as 200 years, but also something very modern. So, but having said that, once in a while you do get a rebel, and no matter what you do, they will still feel that they are being wronged. So the
Right.
first part of your question was how do you ensure that people feel that they are getting justice, and these things are, as you said, they are not above possible misuse. In fact, I'm seeing it. My father was with the judiciary in Rajasthan, and he was at one point, he was a special judge for STSC matters. And I have often heard that these issues were being misused to, settle scores. I was at the university last week, and I have heard these kind of things there also. So here again, we have to accept that there is no 100% perfect solution. You have to be as fair, as just as possible. But then there could be scenarios, I've had one personally, wherein the person insists that everybody, if they're coming from the opposite side and they are driving on one side, it's the whole world which is wrong, not they. So in this case, I'm afraid it's a no-go situation. You have to take the decision. But here I would also, this is one point I wanted to make for the educational institutions also. Ma'am, I would request you to impart better work ethic and better values to your students. Somebody asked about how to retain Gen Z. Now, this is an very frequently heard complaint from the managers that the new people coming to the organization are very, very fickle, very, very intolerant, and at the drop of a hat, they can leave their job. It adds no value neither to the person nor to the organization. And I think being in college is the right time. They're taught these values also, so that it can be a win-win situation. Ultimately, it's the right values which are going to guide us all. There is no exception to it.
Sure, sir. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Quite relevant. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Dr. Sriranjali, if you would like to give your perspective.
Definitely, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Aparna, ma'am, you were actually asking about how to balance these DEI policies, especially if I have to speak about, say, education sector, and if we have to prevent that kind of misusage. I think, in simple words, I would like to say we have to establish clear objectives and guidelines. We need to involve all the diverse stakeholders if we are developing any policy. Then, at hand, we have to ensure that there is a regular training. Plus, we should see that there is transparent implementation of the same. After this, if I have to speak in HR words, we have to monitor, we have to evaluate the impact of what are these policies. If some sort of adjustments are to be made, we have to make those necessary adjustments.
Right.
If there are any misuses, if we find such kind of things, we have to address it immediately. So here we have to try to adapt a say balanced approach. Means we are trying to consider all the perspectives. We can leverage data to inform decisions, as I already informed. Plus, we need to have, say, the mechanisms how to address the conflicts, so that we can ensure there is DEI policies. It is actually genuinely promoting inclusion and equity, right? And thereby we also see that we are not creating any sort of unintended negative consequences. Suppose if say for example, if there is a university, if it has to implement a DEI policy, maybe to enhance diversity, say in terms of hiring, now it has to set specific targets. Suppose if you are doing it for underrepresented groups, if we think that this policy is say overly rigid, we all know that it is definitely leading to tokenism, or we are overlooking those highly qualified candidates. Now, how to bring in the concept of DEI here? The university has to regularly review what are the hiring outcomes. It has to gather all the feedback from their faculty. Then only we can guarantee that this policy is applied fairly, and it is also adjusted actually based on its actual impact. So here we are trying to balance the goal of increasing the diversity while we are also maintaining those high standards of qualification or the concept of inclusivity. I also remember Google, how actually it approached these DEI initiatives. So what Google did was it implemented DEI policy. It started creating a comprehensive plan, maybe for which included those diverse hiring targets. They gave those that bias training. Plus, they also created that ERGs, employee resource groups. So even Google also faced that some of its employees felt that this particular policy, it led to tokenism. It actually created divisions. Now what Google did was it actually took proactive steps. They established that DAC, Diversity Advisory Council. So this council, it was made up of diverse employees. They were actually continuously reviewing, plus they were refining the DEI practices. And Google also introduced the feedback mechanisms. They started that regular audits to assess what is the effectiveness, what is the impact of their policies, whatever they have introduced. So I would like to say this sort of iterative process, it actually allowed even Google, such a top MNC, to adjust their approach to ensure that their DEI efforts, whatever they have put, it genuinely promoted inclusivity, equity, and as I told you, there will be no unintended negative effects. We can even witness a more harmonious as well as a productive work environment.
Right, quite convincing answer. So, in nutshell, what I could get from all three of you is to good character build up. Of course, from the student level itself, good upbringing, and then of course having SOPs for everything and very standardized and transparent communication. These are the four elements perhaps could lead into a better implementation of DEI. So
Very
thank you
well
so very
said.
much from our side. Yeah. Over to you, Tanushree ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. So we extend a heartfelt thanks to all our panelists. My audience would agree that it was indeed a wonderful session with some very noteworthy takeaways. May I now request Mr. Jayant Sanyal, faculty member at BCIPS, present the valedictory note. Jayant, sir, over to you.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. Our source of inspiration and guidance, Vice Chairman Sri Vipul Gupta ji, our unwavering pillar of strength and support, the Director, Dr. Aparna Mishra ji, our participants, academicians, professionals, teachers, and research scholars, the HR Conclave Organizing Committee members, our faculty colleagues, and our student fraternity. Very good afternoon. I do hope and pray that you all are in very good health and spirits. I take this opportunity to take you through a brief recap of Charcha, the HR Conclave on geopolitical dynamics, advancing strategies to sustain workforce diversity, equity, and inclusion. The conclave was structured as a two-session event, with the first being the inaugural session and the second being the technical session. The first session, which is the inaugural session, started with the host of the session, Ms. Tanushree, welcoming the chief guest and other distinguished speakers for the session and the participating audience members in the conclave. She outlined the importance of DEI for organizations in achieving a competitive edge in their fields of business, while emphasizing on regular DEI training at the workplace and strengthening commitment towards diversity, equity, and inclusion for greater organizational success. After invoking the blessings of the goddess of learning, Ma Saraswati, the session began with the welcome address by Dr. Aparna Mishra, Director, BCIPS. In her welcome address, the director acknowledged the presence of the learned guests for the inaugural session and the other participants. She talked about the world's interconnectedness. She highlighted that DI are the cornerstones of today's corporate world. She referred to various cases like Tata Group versus Cyrus Mistry case, Infosys whistleblowing case, and Zomato gender pay gap that highlight the importance of diversity, equity, and inclusion in organizations. The chief guest for the occasion, Ms. Major A.K. Chaturvedi, retired Ati Vishisht Seva Medal. Major Chaturvedi began by thanking the organizing committee, the director, for the invite and expressed his happiness in being part of the conclave. Major Chaturvedi in his address said that he is first a soldier than anything else. He highlighted that the entire army is made up of different places in the country. He said that a Jawan can participate in Army Sammelan and can report his problem to his officer, and that DEI is very much part of the Indian Army's DNA. Through his experience in the armed forces, Major Chaturvedi shared that diversity includes race and ethnicity, which needs to be nurtured and preserved. Equitable opportunities, irrespective of caste, creed, physical barriers, and otherwise, ensure that society becomes inclusive. He further added that our constitution provides fairness and equity, which can be shared, and that all the voices can be heard and valued. Therefore, Indian society is a very inclusive society, he stated. Major Chaturvedi further stated that certain activities in the army, like Desh ki Izzat, Unit ki Izzat, and Apni Izzat philosophy in the Indian Army that drives the army, goes a long way in ensuring that DI is practiced in the Indian Army. DI aligns with ESG, and for any organization to become sustainable, ESG and DI are critical. Major Chaturvedi added, the DI initiatives provide the key benefits of creativity and innovation in the organization, employee satisfaction, and diversity brings in a more conducive working environment. Major Chaturvedi highlighted the diversity in Indian culture and geographical conditions, India's intellectual equity and inclusiveness, which is under threat from recent divisive trends, he stated. India today, he said, is assuming the role of a balancer in the geopolitical scenario. Moving on, Major Chaturvedi shared with the audience how DI is absorbed in Indian industry. He referred to statutory provisions of Article 14, 15, 16, and 17 of the Indian Constitution and shared some key statistics related to DI performance in India, like only 71% of the organizations offer DI, only 62% of organizations offer inclusive benefit option, women labor force percentage in India only 22% as against the global average of 47%. He went on to say that communication mechanisms, technological integration, and policy enhancements can help in making DEI a success in an organization. Talking about the sub-theme, inclusive talent development, career enhancement, and retention, understanding the prevailing scenario, he emphasized the importance of the right people at the right job and capacity building. He cited the example of Tata Nano to reiterate his point further. He further stated that the worker should be present and should be well abreast with the job present and future requirements. Major Chaturvedi concluded by saying that cultural sensitivity is very important and fostering a unified national identity is critical without disturbing our regional aspirations. The keynote address for the session was delivered by the keynote speaker, Dr. Ava Suri. Dr. Suri focused on the sub-theme, building trust and transparency within a geographically dispersed consulting workforce. She congratulated the organizers for choosing a very relevant topic for the conclave, appreciated the chief guest, Major Chaturvedi's presentation, and further stated that DI is very much relevant for a global workforce that is geographically dispersed. Every member of the workforce should feel that she or he has enough opportunities and feel included, she said. She referred to challenges in geographically dispersed teams, saying that such distance leads to social distance, whose mitigation becomes the primary leadership challenge. Citing PricewaterhouseCoopers reports, she shared with the audience that trust is a key component by saying that as per the PwC report 2016, people at high trust companies report 74% less stress, 106% more energy, and 50% higher productivity as compared to low trust companies. Focusing on the challenges faced by a geographically dispersed workforce, she highlighted the challenges of communication barriers, cultural differences, coordination, and collaboration. She went on to say that trust is an emotional feeling towards others, whereas transparency is about sharing information in the organization. Maintaining trust and transparency is key to the success of the geographically dispersed workforce as they create an environment of harmony and cohesion in the workforce. Establishing clear communication channels, asking questions, providing regular updates are some of the ways to go about establishing trust and transparency. In short, Fostering a culture of open communication is a major factor contributing to trust and transparency. Regular checks on how employees are feeling and projects that promote camaraderie also help, apart from offering constructive and timely feedback on the solution and not on the problem. She further stated that feedback should be on the performance, not on the person. Fostering a sense of appreciation and motivation is another important factor in building trust. Then she further stated that accountability has to be provided in terms of tasks assigned to particular team members. Tracking progress and rewarding performances becomes easier this way. She further stated that the win-win situation is a collaboration and that project management tools like Trello and Asana help organize tasks, while real-time dashboards provide visibility of key performance areas. These measures lead to team productivity and higher client satisfaction. In her concluding remarks, she also highlighted the need for cultural training for establishing trust and transparency. Our guest of honor, Mr. Manish Kumar, in his address to the audience, focused on the sub-theme, ensuring equal opportunities and balanced representation, challenges and way ahead. He began by outlining an overview of the views of the chief guest and the keynote speaker, and then he went on to talk about the lack of flexible work arrangements and the socioeconomic disparities that affect access to education and healthcare. Citing the example of civil engineering profile, he said that not many women are there due to the harsh working conditions, which should be dealt with to provide more opportunities to women in this field. He further stated that education and training, apart from mentorship, hold the key to ushering in DEI in organizations and other sections of the society. The important thing is to measure how effective our strategies are to counter the challenge. Referring to RBI's notice of NBFC as carefulness in offering loans to the buyers, he said that feedback from companies to policymakers or government is crucial for reform. He further referred to the financial inclusion and cited a disparity between several women having accounts as compared to men versus the women's access to credit as compared to men. He said that measurement of such disparities of figures becomes vital for establishing equal opportunities for all. Cultural change, he said, is also necessary, and advocating policy changes through various mediums like street dramas and other things can affect policy making. This was followed by a question answer session by the guest of honor, Shri Manish Kumar, wherein the learned guests answered a series of questions by the audience members. The opening session of the day ended with a vote of thanks by Dr. Ravinder Sharma, Member Organizing Committee, Associate Professor and Head of the Department BBA, who offered sincere thanks to all the dignitaries present in the inaugural session for sharing their thoughtful insights, and thanked the management for organizing the session. He offered thanks to all the participants gracing the occasion and acknowledged the behind-the-scenes contribution of his team of the faculty members and students in making the conclave a success. The second session, being the technical session, had a panel of 4 eminent speakers who exchanged their points of views on various sub-themes which were given to each panelist. The panelists were Mr. Pradeep Charjee, CEO, Tisca Textiles and Seed Components Private Limited, representing the manufacturing sector, Dr. S. Sri Ranjani Moksha Gundam, Professor, BJS B School, Mysore University, Bangalore, from the academic sector, Mr. Zainul Khatani, Captain and Soft Skill Trainer, Vistara Alliance, representing the aviation sector, and Mr. Mandeep Nayyar, leader for the maternal and infant care segment, GE Healthcare. Our panelist one, Mr. Pradeep Charjee, focused on the sub-theme, managing equity and inclusion in the manufacturing sector across borders, the impact of geopolitical uncertainties. He began by saying that diversity is nature's way of enhancing the vitality and shared the theoretical conceptual side of diversity, equity, and inclusion. He added that diversity fosters creativity, enhances problem solving, and provides a larger pool of talent. He cited the McKinsey 2019 survey to further substantiate his point or view on the importance of diversity. Referring to the challenges posed by the geopolitical shifts like wars and social cultural issues, he talked about what can be done to promote equity and inclusion. He said that practicing a culture of mutual respect and designing and implementing training and sensitization programs are some of the measures that can be undertaken, focusing on culture of influence rather than culture of concern. Mr. Charjee then spoke about the Indian philosophy of the whole world being home and said that we should look at the present and future with hope and excitement. He further stated that we should prepare ourselves for future by being the flag bearers of the future. Mr. Pradeep Chaj's presentation offered a pragmatic and insightful look at the challenges and opportunities in managing E&I in the manufacturing sector amidst geopolitical uncertainties. By sharing his experience and expertise, he provided valuable guidance for companies navigating this complex landscape. Our panelist, Dr. Sri Ranjani Mokshgundam, spoke on the sub-theme, the impact of digital interventions on DEI in a geographical context, enhancing academic accessibility and expertise. She gave a brief outline of the concepts of diversity, equality, and inclusion. She highlighted that DEI could foster creativity and innovation, improve decision-making, and promote a culture of respect and understanding. In academia, this culture becomes crucial in retaining students and faculty, she said. She further stated that globalization has impacted student mobility, a collaboration which in turn has impacted diversity, adding that migration trends, which shape the composition of international students' bodies, and political policies, such as policies related to international collaboration, the flow of students and faculty across borders, have also affected the DEI in geopolitical context. Dr. Mokshagundam went on to share some of the challenges to DEI in the international context, like cultural barriers in foreign universities and geopolitical tensions hampering diversity. Referring to digital intervention in academia, she cited the learning management systems, MOOC courses, which she said have democratized education systems, enhancing reach, accessibility, and quality education. And students in even more remote areas can now access quality education without the need to relocate. Digital interventions have broken the geographical barriers to education and offer flexible time schedules as per a student's convenience, she further added. Then she went on to say that global access to quality education has become the major focus area of digital intervention. She gave the example of Harvard University and its work on providing accessibility best practices for faculty and students. Dr. Mokshgundam further highlighted that AI and machine learning are being utilized to reduce bias in the admissions and recruitment process. Equitable resource distribution is another focus area, she said, that digital interventions can provide. Providing laptops and internet access to even weaker sections is another example. Digital interventions support diverse team collaboration and ensure that all voices are heard, she stated, adding that online mentorship and networking is also possible through digital interventions. The Digital Mentorship Representation Program is one example, she said, that can be looked at as a platform to share experiences and seek advice from experts. In a nutshell, she acknowledged that challenges associated with implementing digital interventions, such as infrastructure limitations, digital literacy, and privacy concerns, are there. However, she also emphasized the immense opportunities for positive change through effective digital strategies. Our third panelist, Mr. Zainul A. Khatani, captain and soft skill trainer, Vistara Airlines, spoke on the sub-theme, fostering a diverse workplace culture, challenges and strategies for maintaining work-life balance and ensuring mental well-being. Mr. Khatani appreciated the views of the panelists and then touched upon the concept of human resources and shared that the aviation sector has an additional department, namely human performance, which would be the performance of the new employees. Mr. Khatani stressed the critical role of mental well-being in employee performance and overall organizational success. He discussed the impact of factors such as stress, burnout, and work-life imbalance on mental health. He emphasized various strategies for fostering a diverse workplace culture, which includes promoting work-life balance and supporting mental well-being. He also said that flexible work arrangements, employee assistance programs, mental health awareness initiatives, and leadership commitment can also be taken as a way forward. He went on to further state that Indian Airlines has been investing in aircraft, and there is not a single university at the present moment in India that offers courses on how to buy aircraft, which compels the Indian Airlines or the airlines put together to hire from foreign personnel at a brokerage which amounts to 1.3 crores per plane to be purchased. Our last panelist, but not the least, Mr. Mandeep Nair, and who has been the moderator of this session, he welcomed the esteemed panelists for the session and stated that the theme was quite relevant to the session and invited the first panelist to share his views. He then summed up the views of the various panelists and appreciated the content shared by the panelists and expressed his agreement with their views. Mr. Nair then shared his views on the sub-theme, Witnessing DEI in Collaborative Research Marketing for Healthcare, addressing vulnerabilities and creating opportunities worldwide. This he shared from a healthcare perspective. Drawing from his 14 years of experience in healthcare, Mr. Nair outlined what is diversity in healthcare, That is people taking care of phenomena, people taking care of a particular theory. Two doctors, for example, discussing a case requires maturity and quick thinking. So setting up teams consisting of teams from north and south is an example as a big factor as it ensures newer ideas and opinions. He then touched upon the concept of equality by saying that equality can be given to everybody, but can equity be provided to each individual is something which is to be looked at. And then he spoke about inclusion. Mr. Nair then went on to say that healthcare is about celebrating diversity. There is a lot of calmness and softness in the system, and we can further penetrate in the market with the presence of women in the workforce, he further added. He drew parallels from the Indian cricket team and the preference for women, he drew parallels from the Indian women's cricket team and the preference for women employees on toll highways to further substantiate his point. Inclusion, he said, is about making sure that every voice is valued. Mr. Mandeep, in short, encouraged the audience to prioritize DEI in their organizations. He emphasized the need for leadership commitment, employee training, employee retention, and data-driven approaches to measure and track progress. He concluded that the customer outcome is the most important thing that needs to be looked at. In a nutshell, how GE Healthcare has implemented DEI initiatives in its research and marketing endeavors is something that can all take as an example and read as a case study. These he stated that showcase the positive impact of DEI on product development, patient outcomes, and market expansion. The panelists present then answer a wide variety of questions from the audience on areas related to sustainability, business operations, employee relations, mental well-being, and the speakers appreciated the quality of the discussions, the inputs shared, and the questions asked by the audience. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Jayan sir, for an elaborate valedictory note. Now, before I call upon Himani ma'am to deliver the vote of thanks, I would like to inform our audience that we at BCIPS are organizing a national conference sponsored by the Indian Council of Social Science Research, ICSSR, on the theme Business Transformation and Sustainable Innovation, an Edge to Global Circular Economy, which will take place from August 7th to 9th, 2024. I'll request you to please note down the date, August 7th to 9th, 2024. The registration link for the same has been circulated on the chat box. And if you want any more details, the number of the conference coordinators, 3 numbers have been circulated there. You can feel free to get in touch with us. Please do join. It will be a great learning experience. Now I would like to request Ms. Himani, faculty member BCIPS and member of the organizing committee of the Conclave, to present the vote of thanks. Over to you, Himani.
Thank you, ma'am. Good afternoon, everyone. As we come to the close of our conclave on geopolitical dynamics, advancing strategies to sustain workforce, diversity, equity, and inclusion, I would like to extend my deepest gratitude to everyone who contributed to make this event a huge success. First and foremost, I would like to extend a heartfelt thanks to our esteemed Vice Chairman Sir, Mr. Vipul Gupta, and our Director, Ms. Aparna Mishra, for their support and guidance. Your vision and leadership have been instrumental in making this event a success. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you once again for your invaluable contribution. On behalf of everyone involved, I would like to thank our esteemed speakers and panelists. Your insights and expertise have provided us with a deeper understanding of the complex and evolving landscape of diversity. Your contribution have sparked meaningful discussion and inspired new ideas that we can take back to our organizations. Now, I also extend thanks to our attendees. Thank you for your active participation and engagement throughout the events. Now, I would like to extend our thanks to the co-organizing members of HR Conclave team, Dr. Devendra Sharma and Ms. Tanushri ma'am, and the technical team, Ms. Chitra ma'am, and the mailing team, Ayush, who worked tirelessly behind the scenes to ensure that everything runs smoothly. Your dedication and attendance to detail have made this event a seamless experience for all of us. Thank you once again for your participations and support. Now there's the information. Feedback form is already shared in the chat box. It's my request to all the participants to kindly fill it. Your e-certificates will be circulated within 15 days. Thanks. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Himani ma'am. With this, we are formally concluding our HR Conclave Charcha 2024. On behalf of BCIPS, I thank you all for making time in your busy schedules to join us here this afternoon. Your presence and participation have made this event a resounding success. I would also like to mention here that this conclusion is not an end, but in fact a beginning, where all of us, after listening to the thought-provoking insights shared by the practitioners today, can start thinking and talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion around us. I would like to conclude with some beautiful lines inspired by Rabindranath Tagore that encapsulates the essence of our enriching discussions today. In a world where borders blend and cultures intertwine, equity and inclusion make our visions align. Through diverse voices, a stronger path we find. In unity is embraced. True progress is designed. Thank you all once again, and we'll surely like to see you in the next chapter of the conclave. Thank you once again.
Tanushree ma'am, can we have a group photograph for a while? Just a click, perhaps a screenshot.
Yes, we can have it. May I request the photography team? Can we have the group photograph, please? We can all switch on our cameras.
Tanushree, may I request you to please announce the conference which
Sir,
I have shared?
Yes, I have already done that, sir. I have done that. Sanika ma'am?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, we are done.
Thank you all. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so very much.
Thank you,
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sujni. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much, sir. Pleasure is mine.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Have a good day.